Hello, this is Dread, and in today's video topic, we are going to be going over the full build guide for the Runic Gale Brand of Deception Runemaster. So I was planning on getting this video out a few days ago, but there was an announced change where Sanguine Rune Stones was going to get fixed. And I was like, hallelujah, finally, I can finally use these nodes inside the Runemaster tree that we haven't been able to use forever because it gives literally 10 times its value. Well, the patch came out today, and Sanguine Runestones is still not fixed. You still get an insane amount of ward from it. It literally triples my ward still. So, guess what? I'm saying screw it, we're making the video. That's what this is going to be today. If you haven't already, I would heavily suggest leaving a like on the video and subscribing to the channel, as that's the best way of currently supporting work like this. Now, let's get into the build, shall we? So the entire concept of this build is we are building around Brand of Deception. Brand of Deception is an ailment at the top of Runemaster's tree, which has an insanely high base damage and of course can scale with your shock chance for global more damage. Now remember, this is global shock chance, so shock chance with lightning skills does not work, shock chance with skills does not work. You have to have global shock chance. So like for instance, the Lagan Blessing, something like the Lagan Idol, the Relic, like the one that gives you 80% shock chance, stuff like that are the things that you want to be looking for, not for like shock chance with lightning skills. So that's mainly how to scale it. Now, normally this is not enough to make a single one big ailment scale hard enough into endgame, but thankfully for our single target, we can utilize static. Now, static gives you 4% more damage per static charge with ailments and hits with static. And this actually applies to, of course, Brand of Deception because it's an ailment. So Brand of Deception gets the massive 800% more damage from static if we charge it up fully, which is great. And that's mainly our single target, you know? Now, this is great and all, but that's not good enough for clear, as static is very bad for clear for the most part in most situations. But thankfully, Runemaster has a bone for us. If we utilize the invocation Lightning, Fire, Lightning, it's called Runic Gale. So the way that this works is it creates an AoE around you, which expands and then contracts, and that AoE can be taken with you, and it will hit things as you move over them. And this is very important as it makes our clear buttery smooth in comparison, right? We just walk around with lightning, fire, lightning, and things die around us. It's great. And we only have to press static for the more juicy single targets, like for instance, like rares with like less damage taken and stuff like that, which is great. Now, to get this combo, it's very unique. What we do is we utilize the channeling nodes at the top of Runic Invocation that make it so we get a faster channeling rate, and then we channel our Flame Rush for Lightning, Fire, Lightning with, Lightning, Fire, Lightning, yeah, with of course Immutable Order, so that we always get the same runes in the order, right? Then we channel Flame Rush, which then casts our Runic Invocation for us, and it bypasses the cooldown of Immutable Order, which means that we, get the Runic Gale every single time we channel our Flame Rush. Now, Flame Rush is a little bugged sometimes, so you'll have to forgive that. It gets a little annoying sometimes, but it works like 90% of the time, where you get this Runic Gale around you, and you just absolutely wipe the screen with it, which is great. Now, I did get to about like 650 corruption, and I will say my current setup, I was starting to run out a little bit of damage, so I ended up dumping a lot of survivability just for more damage, and turns out Vessel's still insanely strong, even with very minimal investment, as you'll see with my gear, which is kind of ironic, right? Right now, we are hitting for 600k ticks on the dummy, and for an ailment, like essentially the only ailment we have is Brand of Deception. We're not scaling Electrify, we're not scaling Ignite, we're not scaling anything. The only thing we're scaling is Brand of Deception. To get Brand of Deception to hit for that hard is insane, by the way, just so you know. Yeah, Brand of Deception is really good. Now, of course, is this as strong as like every other Runemaster build out there? No, but this is a lot more fun than every other Runemaster build, as you can essentially just hold down Flame Rush through Monoliths and have some fun. Now, with all that being said, let's go in game and talk about the build more in detail, shall we? All right, so here we are in game. Real quick, I want to talk about how we get our runic invocation, as plenty of people were confused about it. So the idea here, the first part of the combo is we grab immutable order. So rune gain depends on skills on action bar. So here we have lightning, we have fire, and then we convert flame ward into lightning, utilizing the node inside flame ward here that turns it to lightning. That means that we have lightning, fire, lightning. So whenever I cast a skill, lightning, fire, lightning, right? And then we get Runic Gale. That's the first part. Now, the second part of the combo is we utilize the nodes up here, Scrivener's Haste, which gives us faster rune gain while channeling, right? And then we channel Flame Rush. And then once we're finished channeling Flame Rush, we then get Epilogue, which gives us Runic Invocation on exit. So if we're going to use Flame Rush here, one moment here, this you kind of have to have a little bit of a bigger thing here. One moment. Here you go. And then all of a sudden, we get Runic Gale. So that's how that works. But yeah, let's talk about the skills, shall we? So for Runic Invocation here, we take 4 points into Attuned Approach, makes it so that we refund 40% of the mana cost, so we're not constantly running out of mana. 1 point travel into Scribe Patterns, 1 point into Author of Arcana, 1 point into Immutable Order, so we work how like I just showed you. 1 point travel into Rune Slinger, 3 points into Glyph Carver's Dominance is to get our Runic Gale to be bigger, which is great, obviously. 1 point into elemental lore. This will actually apply to our Doom brand, by the way. Yeah, or not Doom brand, I'm sorry. Our our deception, brand of deception, applied by Runic Gale. So that's really nice. And we're stacking intelligence anyways. 3 points into Scrivener's Haste, of course, so we get that faster rune gain while channeling. 4 points into Unbridled Ruin. This actually gives us the 36% more damage for our brand of deception, then 16% more damage for our brand deception, and that keeps our damage up while clearing. Then the next skill that we need to talk about is Flame Rush. So Flame Rush, we take 2 points into Fiery Overlord for that frenzy, of course. Then 1 point into Epilogue here, so we get Runic Invocation to exit. That's how this whole build functions. This bypasses the cooldown on Runic Invocation, which is really nice. Then 3 points into Lunar Protection because, we went the ward per second. 3 points into Runic Eclipse. This is insanely strong. Keeping this buff up makes you insanely tanky. Then, of course, 3 points in this. We also get even more buff duration for this as well, which is great. Then cooldown and mana efficiency, of course. Then we just grab the speed and range and then a little bit of extra AoE. That's pretty much it for Flame Rush. Then for Flame Ward, it's your stereotypical Flame Ward setup. The only difference is we grab Lightning Ward so that, of course, it counts as a lightning skill on our bar, which is great, right? Which is good. Then, of course, where is it here? Static Orb. We can talk about Static Orb. So, Static Orb, the whole point of Static Orb is to be very cheap, right? So, we have a 6 mana cost on it. We want it to give us static charges on hit because we have to chart. Thank you, Talzar, for the follow. So, the idea here is we run Arcane Current. So, we generate static charges on hit, but we do the Orbit as well and the Scatter Blast. So, we get a bunch of little hits, right? Every so often. And that will help us charge up our static as on single target. That gets a little annoying. Thankfully, though, one of the biggest problems with this is if we look at Runemaster here and we look at this node, lightning skills that cost at least 15 mana apply Branded Deception on hit, meaning that if we use the normal version of Static Orb, it will apply Branded Deception and steal our damage from our static. So that's why we actually go for Ball Lightning, so that, of course, we can just do this. And thankfully, with this, it means that, of course, it does not cost 15 mana for us, which is great. Then for static string, all we really care about is overcharge and extra targets. That's all we really care about, and maybe the extra when we get hit. Mainly, all we care about is overcharge, so we get the 200 stacks instead of the 100, which gives us more damage with, of course, our branded deception. And that's pretty much it for skills. Now we can talk about passives. So the passives that are important for this build, mainly ward retention, intelligence stacking for later, intelligence stacking, getting this lightning pen is a lot of extra damage. Some mana regen here, of course. We do need a little bit of mana regen to maintain all of our stuff. So that's why we grab a little bit of mana regen here. Then for Runemaster, just grabbing as much intelligence as possible, right? Getting the health regen here, the sphere protection for less damage taken is always great. Cast speed, because we do need to cast a bunch to get our static charges back. So cast speed is somewhat important. Then mana regen here, the 16% more damage here, intelligence, of course, right? Then, of course, branded deception and orders in position for all of our damage scaling, right? Obviously. And that's room shit for the passive tree there. Now let's talk about the gearing. So we have two parts of our gearing. The first is to build around branded deception, getting as much shock chance as possible. We go over to my bar here. You can see that we have 467% global shock chance, right? Through with all of our gear, right? And a lot of it is coming from Velatria Stormcrown as we are doing a bunch of intelligence, right? Then for other items here that we're getting it from Plague Bear Staff with a Exalted T7 shock chance on hit. We're getting double Oceraons, right, for the global shock chance. Then we also have shock chance on our idols, which is really good. You want these ones and not the shock chance with lightning skills, by the way. And then that's the first part of the build. And the second part of the build is to build around Vessel of Strife here. We're getting about 600 ward per second currently. We'd be getting more, but they still haven't fixed Sanguine Runestones for some reason. No idea why this is still not fixed. No idea, even though we just got a patch. But once that's fixed, we can put those points in and gain significantly more word per second once, that actually gets fixed. Who knows when that'll actually get fixed. Yeah, let's go over the gear now. So, like I said, Velatri Storm Crown for the shock chance for intelligence. Amulet here, just damage over time, health regen. Frailty is really nice to get on a sealed suffix, by the way. Some resistance. For the weapon, we're utilizing a Plague Bear Staff. So, a lot of people on the last video that are saying that, like, the Plague Bear Staff isn't our best in slot. I spent, I think, 10 million gold trying different staffs, like double tier sevens, everything. I've tried everything under the sun, and Plague Bear's staff, for how cheap it is still the better option. Just getting T7 chance to shock and then T7 Ellie dot will be better than almost any other staff you could possibly make. So, yeah, we tested it. It costs a lot of gold. I had a lot more gold than this, but for science, obviously. And the rings here, double Ocerons. You actually don't need the health regen suffixes on these. You'd actually want like intelligence, like T7 intelligence or something like that. But we ended up with health regen anyways. You could run, like I said, those int rings. What are they called? Firebor's persistences until you get Ocerons. I think they're kind of side grades. Ocerons are still more damage, but I think Fairboars are better overall because they make you tankier. But that's just up to you. They do give you global shock chance, but then the Fairyboards gives you intelligence. I think Ocerons with T7 intelligence would be better, as it would give you even more shock chance, ward retention, stuff like that. But of course, eventually 2 LP Ocerons would be amazing, but they're like 50 million gold each. Yeah, Ocerons are great. So are Fairboar's persistences. Those are both fine. Belt here, 3 LP Azrael's Fury with Ellie dot, lightning damage, and health regen. This gives us a very large amount of our health regen per second, which is great, and that just makes our vessel even better. I do actually recommend you go over here to your settings and then changing your input keys and turning off potions. Just literally remove that, right? And then you can no longer accidentally drain your mana because you can accidentally drain your mana with False Water Fury. You definitely don't want to do that in the middle of combat. So that's the first thing I would do when it comes to this belt. Then for the gloves here, int dot 8 regen, then the armor suffix, right? The armor prefix, I mean. We just want as much flat armor as possible. These gloves are like our best in slot. Absolutely insane gloves. Then the boots here, I'm using Vanguard boots with the effective haste on me. I don't think you want these. I think you want armor boots. I think you want as much armor as possible, but I wanted the speed because gotta go fast, right? Then for the relic here, of course, Vessel Strife, the biggest part of all of our defenses. Then for the chest here, intelligence, mana strike, health regen, and then armor on the mystic plate's really good because you get the blessing for crit avoid, and all of a sudden you're capped, and also gives you a bunch of flat armor. Then for idols, I just grab a bunch of shock chance idols, then shock chance here. Then for the blessings, void res is amazing here. Health regen, of course, crit avoid, and then armor. And that's pretty much it for the build. That's pretty much it for the character. With all that being said, this has been Jed. I'll have to go do something else. Bye.